Let's start that over. I have my mic on me. Welcome back to another episode of Excellent Sports Talk. I am your host, Mark Bradley, and I appreciate everybody coming to another week. And as every week, we have another week of good sports content, and it's been a lot of sports going on. It's starting to pick up a little bit more because lately we've just been having football, but things are starting to pick up just a little bit more in the sports world. So like each and every week, I appreciate you guys coming to the show. And so let's go ahead and begin on some of the topics that we are going to talk about today. So our first topic is we're going to discuss college football and the college football rankings because college football is coming down to the end. And it's only a couple more weeks, basically. It's going to be the championship season. And, the top teams are going to start playing each other, not this week, but next week. So we're going to go ahead and discuss the college football rankings as we're getting close to the end of the season. And then we're going to talk about the NBA basketball. It was a quick off season, and it's almost that time for basketball to return. And we're going to go ahead and discuss that and give our power rankings of our top 5 best teams in the NBA. So we're going to go ahead and discuss that as well. And then we're going to wrap up the show with the NFL week 13 and 14 that's coming up this week. Some of the playoff teams that are in the playoff hunt and some of the teams that are already in there and they know that they have a position there in the playoffs. We're going to go ahead and discuss that as well. So as every week, I appreciate everybody coming out. If you guys want to go ahead and comment on anything sports related, by all means, please put it in the comment section and I will definitely get back to you and we can have a good discussion. I love interaction with the people who do watch. So by all means, put it in the comment section. So let's go ahead and start off on our first topic, and that is the NFL, or excuse me, not the NFL, the NCAA college football rankings. Like I said, since the season is coming down to the end, these rankings are more important than ever. And there are some teams on here that, we see each and every year in the college football rankings, and of course some teams who basically shocked a lot of people and are it really where we didn't expect them to be. So we want to go ahead and discuss some of those teams who are in there, and also teams who are in the hunt and everything. And we are going to go ahead and discuss that. So let's go ahead and begin with our college football rankings. So number 1 in the college football rankings is Alabama. Now we know each and every year Alabama is competing for a national championship, and it's no different this year, right? It's no different this year. They are right there in the thick of things as they usually are. And look, it's no surprise Alabama is where they are. I mean, look, Alabama is 9-0. Nobody has beat them this year, and look, it's going to be tough for me not to see Alabama making it as the number 1 seed because Alabama looks dominant like they always do. So Alabama is number 1. Number 2, which was a big shocker to me, was Notre Dame. And Notre Dame, we all know, who's usually an independent school that just kind of makes their own schedule and then just go from there. But unfortunately, they couldn't do that this year due to COVID-19 restrictions. So they had to figure out a conference to play in if they want to be a playoff team. So they chose the ACC, which is usually a very good football conference. And they have beaten everybody that they needed to beat, including Clemson. And that's no small feat because Clemson is a premier team in the NCAA, and so they come into the ACC. They did what they have to do, and they are at the top. They are at the top of the top 2 here in the college football rankings, and I don't think it's no surprise to anybody. I mean, well, not to people outside of Notre Dame, but to me, I thought it was a big shocker. So we had number 3, which is Clemson. Clemson, who's always a top team in the NCAA world. Unfortunately, they did suffer one loss against Notre Dame. But to be quite honest with you guys, and I just have to say the facts here. I do not think Notre Dame is better than Clemson. I just do not. And the reason for being, yes, Notre Dame won. Yes, it was a shootout game, right? It was just a bunch of offense, went down to overtime, and Notre Dame was able to win. But to be quite honest with you, they played a Clemson team without their star quarterback, and Trevor Lawrence is going to be the number one pick this year. It's like no debating it unless something like drastically changes. He's going to be the number one pick in the NFL draft next year. And they didn't have the luxury of having him to play in that game. And Notre Dame lost. Clemson lost. And I think if they had a repeat of that game with Trevor Lawrence, I think Clemson would have won by far. I think Clemson would have easily won that game. So they are third right now. I think they are better than Notre Dame. I think literally I think it's Alabama and Clemson are both 1A and 1B in my opinion. Those are clearly the two best teams in the NCAA football world. So Clemson's third. I don't see anybody really beating them between now and the final college football rankings to determine who's going to make the playoffs. So that's something you really have to look out for, right? That's something you really, really have to look out for Clemson because they did not have their star player in Clemson. And I think in the ACC, I'm not sure if they're going to play each other again, the ACC championship game, or Notre Dame has to play somebody else. But look, if they meet in the college football playoffs, I think Clemson will beat Notre Dame, just to be honest with you guys. But, if you want to comment and let me know I'm wrong, by all means, please. And then coming on at number 4, which is a lot of controversy coming into this week, is Ohio State at number 4. Now, look, here's the thing with Ohio State. Okay, in the Big Ten, you was required to play 6 games to make it into the national championship, into being a playoff team in the national championship playoff team. Now, look, they have 5 games completed now, and they are not going to play this week against their arch rivals. Like, they do not like each other at all, which is Michigan. And unfortunately, due to the COVID numbers rising in Michigan, they decided to cancel the game, which means which means Ohio State's only going to have 5 games done in the regular season. So what the Big Ten decided to do was they was going to let that go. They was going to forego that game, and they're going to allow Ohio State to play in the Big Ten championship game against Northwestern University. Now, that really hurts because a team like Indiana, who had a great season this year, could have the opportunity to play in the Big Ten national championship game because they completed their 6 games and Ohio State didn't. So that really stinks for Indiana team who's playing great football this year. Only lost 1 game, and we all know Indiana not to be exactly a football school. They're more of a basketball school, right? So they could have played in the ACC championship game, and if they would have won, look, they could have been right there. They could have been right there, creeping up into like the 5 or 6 spot. One of the last 2 teams on the outside looking in. So does that mean Big Ten really cares a little bit more about Ohio State than the rest of the conference because they are a powerhouse team that they are? Don't get me wrong. Ohio State is a great football team, but they kind of got a little special treatment from the Big Ten because they are in the top 4 of the college football rankings. And to be honest, in my opinion, I don't think that's a right move for the Big Ten to make. But look, I mean, they did it, and it's set in stone. They're going to go ahead and play their championship game against Northwestern University. And if they win, Ohio State is in the college football playoffs. So I thought that was real crazy. I thought that was really a tough decision for the Big Ten to make, and I don't think it's the right one. I just don't. But it's not up to me. All right, it's not. So That's the top four rounding out the college football rankings. And so we have the outside looking in, which is Texas A&M University, another SEC powerhouse school that really played well this year in the SEC, because usually Texas A&M is like a average team in the SEC. Like, they're good, but they're not great. But this year is a little bit different. 7-1 record, and you know, they won 6 in a row, so they're on the outside looking in. And then we have another SEC team in Florida who is 8-1 right now. And here's the big deal about this: Florida and Alabama has to play each other. Not this week, but next week they have to play each other. And look, that's going to be a deciding factor on who's going to go into the college football playoffs, because Florida's the sixth rank, looking outside in. If they beat Alabama, they could move up into maybe the top 3 or top 4. Because look, to be honest with you, whoever wins this game, I think they're going to make it. I mean, well, let me take that back. If Florida wins this game, that's going to put them in the top 4. But that's not going to take Alabama out of the top 4. I don't think that's going to happen. I think, if anything, Ohio State is going to be on the outside looking in as the end of the college football rankings. They're going to move Florida up into the top 4 if they beat Alabama. And they're not going to take Alabama out of the top 4. I just do not see that happening at all. So there's that, right? But look, if Florida loses, then they're just out regardless. It doesn't matter if, ands, or buts. You know, it's a done deal. But, you know, the college football, let's be real, the college football rankings want to see at least 2 SEC teams make it. Like, it won't be a shocker if you see 2 SEC teams make it, because, I mean, they have 2 ACC teams. So if they have 2 SEC teams and 2 ACC teams, that's going to cause a big uproar, because let's look at the other top 5 power conference as far as the Big Ten, the Pac-12, Big Ten, Pac-12, ACC, SEC, and the Big Ten. The Big Ten will be hurt definitely, because they don't want to see Ohio State out of the top 4. The Pac-12 is getting no love whatsoever because they started late, right? And, you know, there's undefeated teams like USC and Colorado who's ranked 15. USC is ranked 15 and Colorado is ranked 21. Now, let's be real. I mean, people really don't look out for the Pac-12. It is what it is, but, you know, as you got to really think about it. Like the SEC, I mean, the Pac-12, you have 2 undefeated teams. If USC or Colorado both goes 7-0, well, 6-0, because USC has to play UCLA this week, and then if they win this week, they'll have to play whoever's the winner out of coming out the North Division, the Pac-12 North Division, which I think Washington right now is number 1 in that division. If they win, they'll be 6-0. You know, it's kind of hard to move teams who are already has 8 wins under their belt. So, you know, Pac-12 kind of dug themselves a grave with not playing football when they needed to in October, and just, you know, kind of playing their own division, which is not going to have the committee to really say, okay, we can put a Pac-12 team above Notre Dame or Ohio State or Clemson or Alabama. It's not going to happen. So basically, I see these 4 teams have a good shot of making it. I think the only game that's really going to matter the most is the matchup between Alabama and Florida. That's going to be one of the big matchups you really have to look out for, because that could be some shifting going on there in the top 4 rankings as far as playoff seeding goes. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal as far as these playoff rankings, man. People really have to blow out some teams, really have to play their best to really get into the college football playoffs, because a lot of these people, there's some tough people that are giving out these rankings. So you really have to be on top of your play if you want to get into the college football playoffs. So that's going to be the end of that topic. And like I said, if you have any questions or comments about the college football rankings, if your favorite college football team is close to the top 10 or the top 5, please by all means let me know and we can go ahead and talk about that. So let's go ahead and continue on to our next topic, and that is that is not the next topic. We just talked about it. Okay, let's talk about the NBA basketball return. So the NBA is starting the playoffs today, and I mean, depends on where you at. Could be tonight, but today is the start of the basketball playoffs, and we're all excited. It seemed like such a quick turnaround that the basketball season is back, because it just ended like a couple of months ago, and here we are right back to it, and it's exciting times. So right now we have 5 basketball games that are going to be played today. The 4 o'clock games, we have 2 games between the Magic and Hawks. And that's going to be a great game because we all want to see the new look Atlanta Hawks. They did a lot of moving in the offseason. And, that's a big deal as far as the Hawks, because they have been bottom feeders of the East Division for a long time. And I think it's a lot of optimism going on in Atlanta now, because Trae Young is a superstar. He's a superstar point guard. Bojan Bogdanovic is a scorer. Onyeka Okongwu from USC is a big-time defensive player that's going to cause a big impact for the Atlanta Hawks. And then you bring in you keep John Collins, who's a good player. Atlanta has a lot of good things. Hey, thanks, Samantha. I appreciate you coming out. Yeah. So Atlanta has a lot of big things going on, and so it's a lot of optimism. They're going to be able to show off their new and improved team now this year. So it's a big deal for Atlanta. And then we're going to move on to another 4 o'clock game. Is the New York Knicks and the Detroit Pistons. And that's a big deal because I think everybody wants to see LiAngelo Ball, who everybody knows from a great player from his high school days back in Chino Hills High School, who didn't have a chance because he got into some troubles in China that really hurt his basketball career while he was in college at UCLA. Now he gets his chance with the Detroit Pistons. And so I think everybody is excited to see how well LiAngelo Ball is ready for the NBA, because we all know his brothers are pretty established already, as far as his younger brother, LaMelo Ball, who was recently drafted to the Charlotte Hornets, and Alonzo Ball, who's been an established player already in New Orleans. So now LiAngelo Ball, he's the middle brother. He's get his chance to show off his skills in his first preseason game against the New York Knicks. And we are going to look out for Obi Toppin, the first pick of for the New York Knicks. We're going to see how well he does. And then continue on at 5 o'clock. It is going to be the Rockets and the Bulls. And we're excited to see how DeMarcus Cousins, John Wall, which was a big trade in the offseason this year with Russell Westbrook, who was recently with the Houston Rockets, is now in Washington playing with the Wizards. And John Wall, who was drafted by the Wizards 10 years ago, is now playing in a new home in Houston. And so it's exciting to see what John Wall is going to be able to do this season, coming off not basically playing the last 2 years with an injured, I think it was an Achilles or an ACL injury. It was a major injury. I can't remember which one, but But it's going to be great to see him back on the court, and also DeMarcus Cousins. Those two were college teammates. Now they're playing in the professionals, both coming off a major injury. It's going to be good to see how that works. And also James Harden, we have to see how things are going to be with him, because we all know James Harden kind of wants to get out of Houston. And you can kind of see it in his actions, because we all know James Harden, it was his birthday. He was at the club doing his thing, knowing that the NBA is kind of turning down, wanting players to go to nightclubs because of COVID-19 protocols. And unfortunately, he didn't care about none of that. He was still doing what he was doing for his birthday. Now, he's not going to play in the playoff game this game tonight, because he still has to go through COVID-19 protocols. So he's not going to play, but we're going to see with John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins if they're going to play on coming back from a major injury. So we're going to keep a lookout for that. And then at 7 o'clock is a big deal. We have the Los Angeles Clippers and the defending champion, new look Los Angeles Lakers. And we all know the Lakers did a complete overhaul of players, bringing in Dennis Schroeder from Oklahoma City, bringing in Montrezl Harrell from the free agency, bringing in Marc Gasol from the Toronto Raptors. And also, Dwight Howard, Danny Green, Rajon Rondo, JaVale McGee, champions for the Lakers is all gone. So now they're basically bringing in a brand new team, and we're going to see how they work together as far as, as a new roster. Anthony Davis and LeBron James is not playing in this game. They're getting their rest. They really didn't have too much time off after their finals run. So they're not going to play. They're not going to play this game around, but pretty sure they'll be back for the other preseason games before the season starts December 22nd. And then the Clippers, the Los Angeles Clippers, we're going to see if they're going to be a different team. They really didn't do much in free agency. We thought they was going to get a point guard, but they never did. They're sticking with Patrick Beverley as their starting point guard. And Paul George, who just came off a big payday this year, I think it was $225 million for 5 years of his services in Los Angeles Clippers. That's a lot of money. So we're going to see if that's going to pay off, because he didn't do too well in the playoffs last year against the Denver Nuggets. So we're going to have to look out for that. And then we have the Trailblazers, the Portland Trailblazers versus the Sacramento Kings. And, the Kings are not exactly the best team. We're going to have to see how they do well without Bojan Bogdanovic and Buddy Hield, who I don't think wants to be in Sacramento any longer. But we're going to see how well they do. And then the Portland Trailblazers is going to come back very hungry. They're bringing back Carmelo Anthony, who's coming back. Everybody's healthy. Yusuf Nurkic and Dame Lillard, CJ McCollum. When healthy, that's a dangerous team. That could be a top 4 team in the West. So, we have to look out for the Portland Trailblazers. That's a great team. So, as I said in the beginning of the show, we're going to give our top 5 power rankings before this year's season. So let's go ahead and begin. So at number 1, I don't think it's any surprise, it's the Los Angeles Lakers. I mean, look, they're the defending champions. They revamped their roster. They brought in some key players that's going to do well. They got a lot younger, a little bit more athletic, I think, in the bench-wise. The starters, they got a bunch of, older guys, bunch of veteran playoff type mentality guys who's been in the league around for a long time. So there's no denying that they are going to be a number 1 team going forward as far as the season goes. And look, if you're beating the defending, if you're not beating the defending champs, they're going to be number 1 regardless. So there's that. Number two, I have the Brooklyn Nets. And the reason why I put Brooklyn Nets is because, look, you have KD, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, who's coming back from, Kevin Durant's coming back from a major injury. Kyrie, if he can stay healthy throughout the whole season, it's going to be hard to not see them be good. Then you're bringing out basically the core that already made the playoffs last year without those two guys. As far as Spencer Dinwiddie, who I think is a great point guard. Yeah, Spencer Dinwiddie, DeAndre Jordan, who's a defensive-minded center, Jared Allen, who's basically coming in as a strong center, up-and-coming center, and then you also have Karis LeVert, who was basically, be a star for that team last year, and then you have Joe Harris, who's coming back, a three-point specialist, who signed the big contract for the Brooklyn Nets, and then you have a revamped team, a revamped coaching staff with Steve Nash, who's coming in, is going to be a fun player coach to watch, and also Mike D'Antoni, who's hilarious, was Steve Nash coach back in Phoenix. Now Steve Nash is his boss as Mike D'Antoni came as an assistant. So that is very funny to really think about, but. That's going to be a strong team. Once they get it together and really learn each other's play style, that's going to be a hard team to beat. I think they're going to struggle at first because they still got a lot of figuring out to do. But in the middle of the season, coming into the end of the season, that's going to be a tough team to beat. It's going to be a very tough team to beat. So you have to look out for the Brooklyn Nets. Number three, I have the Milwaukee Bucks. And the Milwaukee Bucks, they did a lot of good things to revamp their roster, bringing in Drew Holiday, who's a good, strong defensive point guard. And then you also basically have Chris Middleton, another year in the system, who's a great, who's a average, above average player. I wouldn't consider him a superstar, but I wouldn't consider him like an average player. He's an above average player. And then you still have the MVP there with Giannis Antetokounmpo, who still is going to give you monster numbers each and every game, and who's going to be in the front running for another MVP this year. It's going to be hard to not see the Bucks as another playoff team. Now it's going to be a lot of uncertainty as far as, next year, because, Giannis Antetokounmpo is on his last year in Milwaukee. He didn't re-sign this year. So I think he's trying to play it out as far as, look, if this team doesn't make it to the NBA Finals or comes close like they did last year, losing in the second round against the Miami Heat, I think he's on the way out the door. I think he's going to find his way out the door to Milwaukee. And he might go to like Miami or another team that's a strong team. So, but this year I think they're going to have another good year. They're going to be competing for the number one seed in the East. I think them and Brooklyn's going to be slugging it out each and every year, each and every game for the number one seed this year, and it's going to be fun to see some competitive games in the East, because we all know the East to be a weaker division in the West, because the West has so many like talented teams from like number 1 to like number 10 or 11 team in the East. So, in the West. So it's going to be good to see the East actually have a little bit more competition this year. And I'm excited to see what the East brings this year. So the Bucks is going to be definitely at the top. Number 4, I have the Los Angeles Clippers coming at number 4. Now, the only reason why I put the Clippers at 4 is because I don't think they did enough this offseason to really upgrade their team. They didn't get a leader point guard, because I say this each and every time. Patrick Beverley is not a leader. He's just a loudmouth, guy that's going to try to, bring some energy to the team, but he's not that one guy that's just going to take over and just be like, hey, we need to do this, get it right, and go forth. And Paul George is not that guy, neither is Kawhi Leonard. So they really didn't get that leader that they really needed. Now, they brought in Serge Ibaka, which I think is a very good piece, because last year they brought in Ivica Zubac, who's a very good center. Don't get me wrong. He's a very good center, but he's not athletic. And you can kind of see that because he was getting abused last year by Nikola Jokic from the Denver Nuggets, who's one of the best centers in the NBA, to be honest with you. But now you bring in Serge Ibaka, more of an athletic shot blocker type guy, which I think is good. But they didn't bring in a point guard. It's not. I don't think they did much to really, put them above like a Lakers or a Milwaukee or even the Nets, because the Nets they have leaders. They have leaders there. I don't see Kevin Durant going in and saying, look, we're not losing this game. Put the team on my back. Let's go crazy. Kawhi is not going to do that. Kawhi is not going to go in the huddle and be like, look, give me the ball. Kawhi is a quiet guy. Kawhi is a very quiet guy, and you can see that. Kawhi is very quiet. So it's going to be hard for me not to see the Clippers. They're going to be a top team in the West. They're probably going to be a top 2 or 3 team in the West, but I don't see them getting above the Lakers or, I don't know. It's going to be hard for me to see. So, but I have them at 4. And with the last power ranking is coming at number 5 is Denver Nuggets. I think the Denver Nuggets have done some things this year that's going to really, as far as going to make them a top team in the league. And they're going to be strong this year. Jamal Murray, I think, really became a superstar point guard this year. Nikola Jokic was already a dominant center. And I think Michael Porter Jr. is going to come in and have a great year. I think he found his ways as far as becoming a all-star player. I think he's going to be an all-star for sure. He can score. If he can get it right on the defensive end, I think that's his only flaw in his game right now. If he can get it right on the defensive end, he's going to be a tough player. So number 5 is the Nuggets. Look, they played the Lakers very well. It could have been one Anthony Davis clutch three-pointer that they could have been up 3-1, and they could have won the series. They could have won that series against the Lakers. Do not get me wrong. But, when Anthony Davis, you got clutch genes in your body, it's hard to overdo that. But the Nuggets coming at top 5, and that rounds off my top 5 Power 5 ranking list. Number 1 is the Lakers. Number 2 is the Brooklyn Nets. Number 3, Milwaukee Bucks. Number 4, Los Angeles Clippers. And number 5, the Denver Nuggets. So that's the end of that topic, and I'm going to go ahead and take a break, and then we're going to come back. We're going to talk about our last segment. So as far as the NBA, since it's coming back tonight, we're going to show the last game of last season, which was the Los Angeles Lakers winning the championship against the Miami Heat in the NBA bubble in Florida. And I will be back in probably 8 minutes because it's a longer clip. So I hope you guys enjoy, and I'll be back.
Was me, quite honestly, I wouldn't have made the change to Caruso. I would have stayed big and probably went with JaVale McGee. A welcome sight for the Lakers.
Caruso is on Tyler Hero. Anthony Davis has played some of his best ball. Pass inside. Oh, gorgeous feet.
Many plays as possible, LeBron James.
Good defense there from Davis. Forces the turnover, and James with the flush down the other end. Back to that in a moment.
Great hands by Caruso getting back into the picture.
James barrels in and banks it home. First. Lakers by 3. Tyler Hero. Nice little fake. Duncan Robinson has some room again. That's 2 3-pointers for Duncan Robinson already. Davis fakes the 3. Back out to Green. Corner 3-pointer. That's good.
They have missed some very makeable point-blank shots as James continues to attack in transition.
Nice feed inside to Rondo. Beautiful pass from James. That's his second assist.
And find to Rondo.
Bad pass from Hero. Caldwell Pope, the steal, drives down the other end and lays it up and in. Kendrick Nunn just into the game. He nails a 3-pointer.
He was huge for them in the last ball game.
Head coach of the Lakers. As Caldwell Pope lines up the 3-pointer. That won't go. Davis fighting for it. Gets the offensive rebound. Back up and throws it down. Butler's only taken 11 threes in these finals. Rondo drives and finishes. Rondo off in. Rondo inside. Lost it. Gets it back. James fakes. James drives. Throws it up to Davis, and Davis banks it home. Davis spins against Iguodala. The baseline jumper. High floater is good. Anthony Davis, 8 points here.
First of all, I don't think he's healthy and whole, but I think it's a harder decision than what you say as James attacks the rim without any help.
Dragic checks back in the game. How does that change things for you in terms of what you're trying to do out there, especially defensively?
Well, we have coverages in place on how we want to,
James goes to the rim once again, lays it up and in, and he's in double. Half gone by in the second. Dragic chased by Danny Green, goes down the lane, high off the glass, rattles. Crowder to Butler. Butler drives on Kuzma. Little Euro step, flips it up and rolls it in. Jimmy Rondo pushing the other way. Rondo drives, another scoop layup, lays it up and in. 11 points for Rondo off the bench. Rondo. Shot clock down to 5. Rondo gets across the lane, spins inside, left-handed layup. Oh, Rajon. 13 points on 6 of 6 from the field. Crowder. And rattles that one in. And boy, did the Miami Heat need that three-pointer. Davis floats it up and in. He's got double figures now. Oh.
What a defensive sequence by Anthony Davis.
Caldwell Pope draws the foul. Adebayo, a couple of dribbles. Nice feed inside to Butler. Butler changes, layup, count it, and the foul.
And he outworks them.
And then Davis throws it down with the foul. Rondo with the perfect bounce pass. LA looking to push every opportunity. Beautiful pass. Caruso banks it in. Rondo drives, gets inside, back out. Caldwell Pope for 3. Puts it in. 61.
Any defensive rebounds.
He's basically playing center field and daring Bam to shoot as KCP knocks down another one. This is
5 seconds remaining here in the half. Nunn drives backdoor, lays it up and in. And a rare mistake defense start. Doesn't have big numbers. As James drives, gets inside, layup, banks it home, and a foul. James goes down a lane, kicks it out. Davis. Davis fakes, back up top. Danny Green, an open look. That's good. Danny Green from down. Lakers are shooting 52% from the field, and then just complete. Hero just 1 for 8 from the field tonight. James drives, James finishes.
This guy is far from finished.
Adebayo gets inside, throws it up, draws the foul. Back in. As we approach the midway point of the third, Danny Green, high off the glass, bounces around and drops.
They go about their business.
They have so much respect for each other. They've faced each other in big moments before as Kuzma lays it up.
I don't think those two guys are exceptionally talented. I mean, like you always say, like top 5, but it's by others.
And you make a great point, because as great as Anthony Davis has been in this ball game, as Rondo knocks down
the lead has ballooned to 36. How about the game Rondo's had? 16 points, 7 of 8 from the field as Crowder puts it up. Usual great spirit and defense. Back to James. James goes inside, the flush and the foul. Terrific connection on the floor all season. James is one of Caruso's biggest fans as Butler goes in. They're just 2 of 6 from the field. After that fantastic performance in Game 5, got that three-pointer to go. His third three-pointer. This is a Heat team that is a very good offensive team. Rondo again. Rajon Rondo, 8 of... Goran Dragic is going to be a free agent this offseason. Beautiful pass to Adebayo.
those nights in order to develop and understand the adjustments that you have to make individually and collectively.
Danny Green back up to 25. Dragic, Butler, and Hero. Hero throws it up and in.
Totally agree.
You know, they have been just exceptional here in the postseason. Green shot won't go. Davis on the tip. Adebayo inside, bounces around and...
He's improved defensively. He's improved as a passer as he draws more attention.
LeBron James putting on the finishing touches as he knocks down the three-pointer. Hero inside, Bam Adebayo throws it up and in. Adebayo putting up as we hit the 4-minute mark. LeBron James throws it down. Again, they had Blazers were picked by some to upset the Lakers in the first round. Going to finish the playoffs 16-5. They beat Portland, Houston, and Denver all in 5 games. As LeBron James ready to celebrate. James wants to finish off with a 3. Instead, he'll go inside, lay it up and in. As we hit 2 minutes remaining here in Game 6. 10 assists. The Lakers 127 away from the title. Final seconds here in this NBA season. The respect from those two. And that's it. It's over. This historic 2020 NBA championship belongs to the Los Angeles Lakers.
All right, so welcome back. That was the highlights of the last game of the NBA Finals, Game 6, of the with the Los Angeles Lakers and the Miami Heat. And tonight's the night, the defense of the title run for the Los Angeles Lakers. And so we're going to see how well they do this year. And so we're going to go ahead and move on to our last topic of the day, and that is the the NFL Week 13 and Week 14. Now, we all know that there are some big games that happened last week that had a big time playoff implication type deal, and so we want to highlight some key games that were very important. That took place last week. So let's start off with game number 1, which is the Cleveland Browns and the Tennessee Titans. Now, this was a big game for the Cleveland Browns because, you know, there was a lot of competitive teams with a lot of similar records. And so Cleveland Brown coming in this game with the 8-3 record, I want to be correct. If they went down to 8-4, we're looking at the Browns, the Colts, and Miami basically all having the same record. But the Browns, they played extremely well this game against a Tennessee Titans team who are no pushovers by any stretch of the imagination. Tennessee Titans are a strong team. And Baker Mayfield had a great game, especially in the first half. Baker Mayfield, his final stats were he had 25 completions and had 33 attempts, 334 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And the 4 touchdowns came in the first half where Cleveland was basically blowing out the Tennessee Titans. And the score looked a lot closer than it was because it was 45-35. But basically Cleveland was basically done and wasn't even caring about the game at the end. And also Nick Chubb, who's one of the best running backs in the NFL, had 18 carries for 80 yards and 1 touchdown. And also Kareem Hunt with 14 yards, 14 carries, 33 yards, no touchdowns. And Jarvis Landry finally was able to get a touchdown last week. Donovan Peoples-Jones had a touchdown. Also Rashad Higgins added to the scoring total. So this is a strong Cleveland team. I think this is the first winning team that Cleveland had in 13 years. I think this is the first winning season Cleveland had in like 13 seasons. And it's good. I think the Cleveland fans definitely deserve this, guys. Cleveland, we all know Cleveland with the bags over their heads and just, you know, nobody showing up to the game. Back in those days, this is a great season for Cleveland, a much needed season. One of the toughest divisions in all of NFL. They're fighting blow for blow in that division. So right now, Cleveland is 9-3. They're still on the outside looking in, but they're in the first wild card position because of the Steelers being who they are, being one of the top teams in the NFL. So, look, a 9-3 record is nothing to look past. Even though Pittsburgh is having a great year, you cannot look past what the Browns have done this year, and they have done a very great job as far as you know, becoming one of the top teams in the NFL. So, Cleveland next week, they have to play Baltimore, another team that's on the outside looking in. Baltimore, they travel to Cleveland. This could be another chance for the Cleveland Browns to get their 10th win in that division, and just stay between striking distance with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it's good times in Cincinnati. So in Cleveland. So it's exciting times. So let's move on to another game that was very big for a team, and that's for Baltimore Ravens. Now, the Baltimore Ravens were struggling. Of course, they unfortunately had problems as far as COVID-19, as far as one of their top players going down in Lamar Jackson not playing in the game last week that they had. But they came back in Baltimore and beat up on a pretty bad Cowboys team, and they needed that win to stay within reach of the playoffs. Now, they have struggled, and we all know that, but this is a good win. They keep them in that little, playoff realm that they needed to be in. And look, they have to come around. They have to play Cleveland. That's going to be another tough game for them, especially going to Cleveland. I don't know why I keep saying his name. Going into Cleveland. And they're going to go in. They need a win. They need a win this week, in Sunday against Cleveland, if they want to stay in that wild card hunt, because it's a lot of competitive teams in that wild card, especially in the AFC. The AFC this year is very competitive, which is usually not the case. Usually the NFC is a little bit more competitive than usual, but they're in it. They're in it, and they need a big win against Cleveland. Lamar Jackson has to play like a superstar that he was last year. I don't think this year is basically up to his standards. But I mean, if they're still in the wild card playoffs position, then you really can't fault them not being where they are without Lamar Jackson, right? Because he's still one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, but they need a win. They need a win bad here. And so we're also going to look at one more game, which is the Las Vegas Raiders and the New York Jets. And the New York Jets play some expired football this week, with the Las Vegas Raiders coming off of horrible wins against an Atlanta team that they shouldn't have lost to, but they did. And look, New York played a great game. And Las Vegas, this is definitely wasn't the game that they wanted. I'm pretty sure that they wanted to go in and have a statement win against a winless Jets team that only scores 13 points a game. But they put 28 points against the Las Vegas Raiders defense, who is really bad. I just want you guys to know that. Like that their defense is bad. Their defense is very bad. But unfortunately, when you have the offense like the Raiders, and guys, I don't know how you let this happen. Like, somebody maybe can explain better with me, because football. Because in football standards, I may not be the brightest in that department, but I think I kind of know you do not blitz the whole team on the last play of a football game, especially when they need to go about almost 60 yards to get a touchdown. So the game was going. The Jets was looking like they was going to get their wins, 28-24. Looks like the Jets are going to go ahead and get their first win of the year. And then you call an all-out blitz. The defensive coordinator, Greg Williams, calls an all-out blitz against Derek Carr and have no safety help whatsoever. The linebackers is not there. They're all blitzing Derek Carr. It's just man-to-man coverage, one-on-one across the board against the receivers. And then you let Henry Ruggs, who's one of the fastest players in the NFL, you go one-on-one against Henry Ruggs. You get beat by a double move, and they score the last play of the game. What sense does that make? Now, I hear a lot of people saying, oh, that was definitely a tank job. You just do not do that. You do not blitz all the players all at once unless you're trying to lose the game, which I don't think was the case. I don't think any NFL professional player or a professional coach wants to lose a game, like willingly. But that was crazy. That was crazy. And, you know, that helped the Raiders in their playoff position, because if they would have went 6-6, because they were 6-5 coming into that game, if they would have went 6-6, that would have been hurt. That would have hurt their playoff chances by far. They would probably have to win out the rest of the games if they wanted to get back in the playoff position. That would have hurt, but that one play saved their season. And so now they have a must-win game against the Indianapolis Colts, another team who I believe is second in the wild card position. I believe it's Cleveland's first in the wild card position. Indianapolis Colts is second, and not the Tennessee Titans, excuse me. The Miami Dolphins are third in playoff position. So the Raiders versus the Colts this year, this is going to have a big playoff implication type deal, because if the Raiders win, they're in the wild card. They're back in the wild card spot, either second or third, depending on what happens between the Miami Dolphins and the Kansas City Chiefs game, because we all know Kansas City is a strong team that wants to get that number one seed. So they still have a lot to play for, because they want to get that first week bye and don't want to play in against a wild card team that they should roll over really easy. They just want to get a bye, and only have to play two games to get to the Super Bowl. So they still have a lot to play for. And look, Miami's a very capable team to win because their defense is very strong. So that could be a very competitive game. But if the Raiders are able to win this game, they could be in the second wildcard seed behind Cleveland. And the Colts will be on the outside looking in with the 8-5 record. And like I said, with Baltimore, if they can win against Cleveland, then they could make a way to get back into the playoff position. So it's a lot of competitive things going on with the AFC. And let's show the NFC some love. So the Saints is already in the playoffs, and we kind of knew the Saints was going to have one of those type of seasons that they're the Saints. They're a good team. The Packers are second right now with the 9-3 record. The Los Angeles Rams are third with the 9-4 record. And then we got to talk. Look, it is what it is, but the New York Giants with a 5-7 record, they're winning the division, the worst division historically I've ever seen in my life. Everybody in that division is bad. I don't know what to tell you guys. I'm sorry. It is what it is. They're bad. But the Giants are in first place. The Washington football team is right there with them with the 5-7 record. I mean, of course, they're not in the wild card seeding because they're not that good either, but they still have a chance to win the division. And then we have Seattle, who lost a bad game against the New York Giants. They shouldn't have lost that game, but they're 8-4 in the 5th seed. And then we have Tampa Bay Buccaneers with the 6th seed in the wild card position. So Seattle's first in the wild card, Tampa Bay is second. Then we had the Minnesota Vikings with a 6-6 record, who's the last in that division. We have Arizona on the outside looking in, Chicago, Detroit, and then the rest of the NFC. With the Cowboys, they're still in it, which makes no sense, and the Eagles are still in it, which makes no sense either. But it is what it is. There's some big games to be played next week. That's going to have a big impact on the playoff seeding in the next coming up weeks. And there's only 3 more weeks in the NFL, so these teams got to make it, or it's over with. So this is a big deal. But I want to thank everybody who came out to the show. And each and every week, you guys coming out showing support. I appreciate all the likes on on the Facebook page and also YouTube and also Twitch. You guys are awesome as well. So I will be back same time next week. noon Eastern. Noon Eastern. I live on the West Coast. So I'm not gonna lie to you. Noon Pacific Standard Time, and that's 3 Eastern out there in the East Coast, 2 in Central Time, and then Arizona got their own thing. So I think it's 1 out there, but. But I appreciate everybody come out, and on Twitch I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. Usually I host somebody, but not this week. I'm just going to go ahead and end. And on Facebook and YouTube, I appreciate you guys coming each and every week, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.